The sunken city of Krishna. What if the legend turned out to be more accurate than science? 3,000 years ago, an ancient text described a city built on land reclaimed from the ocean, a city with wide streets, palaces of coral and sapphire, surrounded by the sea on every side, and then a city that the sea took back on the very day its ruler died. This is not a children's story. This is the Mahabharata, one of the oldest epics of humanity. And the city was called Dwarka, the capital of Krishna. For centuries, historians treated it as a beautiful metaphor, poetry without real geography, too perfect a story to be anything more than myth. But this story had one quality that set it apart from ordinary legends. It pointed to a specific place, not some vague, far to the east or beyond the sea. A specific bay, a specific coastline, a specific river flowing into the sea beside the city. The first attempts to find that coastline began almost 100 years ago, back in the 1930s, near a small island close to the modern town of Dwarka. Nothing convincing turned up. Another attempt followed in the 1960s, again without clear results. Then, in 1979, archaeologists finally found something interesting. Pottery dated to several thousand years old. It was the first real clue, the first reason to keep looking. Everything truly changed in 1983, when a team of Indian marine archaeologists first dove into the waters off the coast of Gujarat with the most advanced equipment available at the time. And they found something that should not have been there. Stone walls, paved streets, harbor structures, at depths between 3 and 20 meters beneath the Arabian Sea, in a place where for centuries there had been nothing but water and legend. Leading the expedition was Dr. Rao, a man who spent the next 7 years of his life diving there again and again, expedition after expedition. His team pulled hundreds of artifacts from the seabed, triangular stone anchors with 3 drilled holes, identical to the ones used by Bronze Age trading ships all across the ancient world, from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean. That meant one thing. The city had not simply been a capital. It had been a port connected by trade routes to half the known world of its time. Fragments of fortified walls, built from massive dressed stone blocks, fitted together with striking precision. The remains of stone jetties and steps leading straight into the water. The very steps that traders and travelers may once have used to reach their ships. A port, a real working port, exactly where the ancient text said Krishna's capital once stood. The text itself, in fact, says this directly. An ancient manuscript called the Harivamsa describes Dwarka as a city built on land reclaimed from the ocean. The ancient authors seem to know something modern engineers only recently confirmed. The coast of Gujarat is slowly sinking due to shifting tectonic plates beneath it. The ground the city stood on had been going under for centuries, gradually, invisible within a single lifetime, but unstoppable across generations. But then, according to the epic, everything happened differently, not gradually. Krishna died and the sea swallowed the city whole in a single day, as if it had been waiting for that moment, as if the city had stayed afloat only because of its ruler. Science, of course, works differently, and the dates are where the real mystery begins. Some analyses of the findings place the city between 3,000 and 4,000 years old, lining up almost perfectly with the mythology itself. Other studies, including new research from this year, suggest a more modest 1,500 to 2,000 years. The gap is enormous, and this isn't just numbers on a page, it's a question of what we should trust more. Stone pulled from the seafloor or a text written thousands of years ago by people who had no sonar, no underwater cameras, no idea that millennia later someone would be checking their words with scientific precision. Here is where it gets truly interesting. This spring, archaeologists returned to the coast of Dwarka once more, this time with modern sonar and underwater scanners. Equipment Dr. Rao could not have dreamed of 40 years ago. They found what they called structural anomalies, likely jetty walls, more stone anchors, inscribed pottery fragments, copper rings, all of it lying 5 to 12 meters deep along the eastern bank of the river, that flows into the sea beside the city in the very same area first mapped back in the 1980s. Leading the new expedition is Professor Tripathi, and notably, for the first time in the history of Indian underwater archaeology, most of the divers on the team are women, descending into the same waters Dr. Rao first entered nearly 40 years ago. Their method looks nothing like it did back then. Instead of raising stones to the surface and carrying them off to museums, the new team uses photogrammetry, thousands of underwater photographs combined into a precise three-dimensional model of what lies on the seafloor. Their goal isn't to remove the city piece by piece, but to reconstruct it entirely in digital form, without disturbing a single stone underwater. Alongside the photogrammetry, the team is running sediment analysis, an optically stimulated luminescence dating, a method that reveals exactly when sand and silt last saw sunlight before the water covered them. It's another way to verify the age of the findings, independent of simple radiocarbon analysis. Researchers are also drilling into the seabed for the first time, pulling thin cores of soil that record, layer by layer, the history of the coastline itself when it sank faster and when it slowed. Laboratory results are expected early next year, which means that right now, while you're listening to this, somewhere in a lab, scientists are determining just how accurately an ancient text described a real geographic location. Dr. Rao himself spoke about this years ago, long before today's debates over exact dates. He argued that the underwater findings at Dwarka confirmed the historical reality of Krishna, something scholars around the world had long refused to believe, dismissing it as nothing more than a beautiful religious tradition with no historical foundation. But here is the strange part that rarely gets discussed. How did ancient authors, who never saw the underwater world, who never had the chance to view the coastline from above or below the surface, manage to describe a city in exactly the place where it would later be found, thousands of years afterward? How did a text composed centuries before written cartography even existed point to such a precise location, down to the specific river, the specific coastline, the specific depth where divers are working today? Maybe it isn't mysticism at all. Maybe ancient civilizations understood their land far better than we give them credit for. They knew how to build on water. They knew the coastline was slowly shifting. And perhaps they knew, long before it happened for good, that the sea would one day take back what they had built. Or maybe the match between an ancient text and a real place beneath the water isn't a coincidence at all. Dwarka isn't alone in this. Similar stories repeat around the world with unsettling regularity. Off the coast of Egypt, archaeologists found the sunken city of Heracleion, known before only through scattered mentions by ancient writers. Further south along India's coast, near Mahabalipuram, fishermen had told stories for centuries about 7 pagodas, 6 of which the sea supposedly swallowed whole. After the tsunami of 2004, when the water pulled back from the shore for several minutes, local residents saw with their own eyes the outlines of structures where there had only ever been sea. Every time the same pattern repeats, an oral tradition that people treated for centuries as nothing more than a nice story turns out to be an unexpectedly precise map. Scientists call this cultural memory, the ability of human communities to preserve information about real events in the form of myth, passing it down across generations far longer than most people assume possible. Maybe myth isn't a distortion of facts at all, but a way of preserving them when no writing system exists to record them. A method that works just as well, sometimes even better, than stone or paper, because it lives in language, in ritual, in a song passed down around a fire. If that's true, then every legend about a sunken city isn't just a beautiful tale. It's a set of coordinates, encoded in a form we've almost forgotten how to read. And perhaps right now, beneath the water off the coasts of dozens of countries, more cities are still waiting. Cities whose names we only remember through myth, waiting for their turn to be found. Dwarka remains a place of pilgrimage to this day. A temple on the shore stands directly above the site believed to have once held Krishna's palace. The building itself has been rebuilt many times over the centuries, But tradition holds that each new temple was raised exactly where the last one stood, as if the line connecting the modern city to the sunken one had never once been broken. Thousands of people travel there every year, pray, bathe in the sea beside the temple, unaware that just beneath the water, a few meters from shore, lie stones that still haven't finished telling their story. And maybe that's the real reason this story refuses to let go. Not because it proves an ancient king truly walked those streets, but because it suggests something far stranger, that the line between memory and myth was never as solid as we assumed. Somewhere between a text written on palm leaves and a stone anchor pulled from the sea, the past is still speaking, if we're patient enough to listen. What if humanity's most incredible legends aren't fiction at all, but forgotten memories of something that truly happened?